Last week, there was thunderous applause on the one hand and howls of protest on the other in Armenia. Why? Welcome to episode 21 of Nagorno-Karabakh on the recent Armenian parliamentary elections. And just a little note, before you start accusing me of having messed up the background image for this episode, this is done on purpose. I wanted it to be dim. I want it to be a little bit amorphous because the subject I'm going to tackle and the points I'm going to raise today might come across as being quite dim and at times also amorphous. So bear with me as I experiment with my background. And I suppose the proof of the eating is in the pudding, the number of people who will persist and listen to this episode. So, indeed, the snap elections or #ArmVote 2021 resulted in an overwhelming victory for Nikol Pashinyan and an underwhelming defeat for Robert Kocharyan. The new 105-seat parliament will have 72 deputies from Pashinyan's civil contract party, 27 from Kocharyan's Armenia alliance, and I believe a meager 6 deputies from I Have Honor alliance with Vanetsyan and Sargsyan. So let me first and foremost share with you in the description box only 2 links today. The first is Eric Hacopian, host and analyst at CivilNet TV, who summarizes the results and perhaps also the paradoxes of the parliamentary elections in Armenia last Sunday in a short interview with Emilio Criccio. It's a good short interview if you have the time to watch it. And the other one is an interview with President Armen Sargsyan about the future of Armenia and its constitution, what I also call the pontoon bridges between the presidency and the executive in Yerevan via the US-based Mirror Spectator. Also an interesting watch. Okay, so the elections are over. The verdict is clear and unequivocal, and the OSCE, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, who were the international monitors for this election, have validated the results. But Armenia today comes out of these elections deeply, deeply challenged. Don't look only at the dismembered state of Nagorno-Karabakh, Artsakh for Armenians, but more so today, focus at the encroachments by the Azerbaijani army and its supporters or allies into Armenia proper. Names that come to mind, yes, Syunik, also Jermuk, Davush, Mehri. So having chatted with 7 associates of mine since the election results came out, 4 were Armenian and 3 were not, it's time perhaps for my own mini statement of account, as one does in the hole in the wall in a bank, on only a couple of points. The first one. The candidates running for office were, in my opinion, humbly, personally, the wrong ones. I'd already suggested in a previous YouTube episode that I hoped a 3rd candidate would emerge so all Armenians could rally around him or her. But that didn't happen. So we know that we ended up with a 2-horse race. And Armenia now has a new prime minister. So my questions directly to Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan are as follows. 3 small, simple questions. 1, Will he grow up and become prime minister for all Armenians? Will he be able to work toward healing the whole nation rather than being the prime minister of one constituency alone and criticizing institutions, opponents, even the church when they don't support him? In a democracy, and Armenia is certainly a democracy compared to other states in that rough neighborhood, everyone should have a voice. My second little question: will Nikol Pashinyan also show true leadership that encourages transparency, inclusion, some call it inclusiveness, and open engagement with civil society? Will he support institution building by reaching out to those in the Republic and the diaspora who aren't necessarily his natural allies? Will he? And finally, will he and President Armen Sarkisyan manage to find common ground, or will this lackluster cooperation, for a want of any better word, and the clever posturing that goes between the president's office and the prime minister's continue unhindered and damage further our own standing as a republic? Those are my questions. They're short, they're simple, but I believe they're quite challenging too. But then I come to the second segment. Nikol Pashinyan is willy-nilly the prime minister. So whether Armenians, some Armenians like him, do not like him, hate him, do not hate him, it is time to come together and stop bickering or voicing endless tirades of dissatisfaction with the results on the various pages of Facebook, on the telly, in meetings. This man is the one that Armenians elected with an overwhelming majority, warts and all. So, shouldn't Armenians just accept the result, the verdict of the electorate, of the ballot box, and stop whinging, whining, wailing that only weakens the country, not him, and strengthens those considered Armenians enemies? Why? Why am I saying this, and why am I concerned? It's because if this fragmentation continues, if this constant rejection and criticism persists, if this war of attrition is maintained, Armenia will become increasingly more vulnerable, more fragmented, and it risks also meeting, yes, I will say it, and you can heap abuse as much as you like on me. I have figuratively broad shoulders. It risks also meeting the same fate of Nagorno-Karabakh if we are not careful. So, as the eyebrows shoot up and as people start pouring vitriol at this statement, how dare I say this? I ask myself, am I being too harsh? Well, let me leave you with one scary wake-up thought. Alexandropoli by Manakira, or the Treaty of Alexandropol of 1920. I'm not going to go into this treaty. You want to find out more about it. If you don't know much about it, you can search it via your search engine. You can look through your history books. You can talk to friends and colleagues. But in a nutshell, the Treaty of Alexandropol was a peace treaty that was concluded between the First Republic of Armenia and the Grand National Assembly of Turkey in September 1920, 1 century ago, following the Treaty of Sèvres. That was following the Armenian genocide and World War I. The treaty, incidentally, was flawed. It was prepared by the Turks with the Armenians having literally no input, but it was never ratified. Luckily, never ratified. It did not therefore become applicable because it so happened that when the Armenian foreign minister signed the treaty, it didn't get to parliament because Armenia became part of the Soviet Union. And the outcome, after many loops, which you can check in your history pages, was the Treaty of Kars. And you can now draw your own conclusions why I am concerned. I'm concerned about this constant criticism, these attacks, these verbal attacks, the unwillingness of Armenians to consider what lies a little bit beyond their noses. It's important that we do so. Therefore, in conclusion, given the looming dangers that face Armenians collectively, in other words, those in the Republic and the enclave, those in the diaspora, have to be careful that we do not find ourselves facing a situation not too dissimilar from Alexandropol. This is why the new old Prime Minister, Nikol Pashinyan, new because he's just been re-elected, old because he came into power on the coattails of the Velvet Revolution, that we must expect the Prime Minister to grow up and become a leader who doesn't only squeak and look at his supporters, but who projects a reformist vision for all Armenians. But conversely, and equally importantly, if not more so at this stage, Armenians, again, whether in the Republic or in the diaspora, should stop their incessant carping comments and rally around his leadership. 30 years of corruption, of oligarchy, and of stasis didn't really help, did it? So, it is time that we Armenians respect the results, but also respect each other's viewpoints. And we give this man a chance. If he fails, he will be booted out. After all, what is at stake, in my humble opinion, as an observer, and I repeat this, I'm an observer from outside Armenia, what I believe is at stake is not only the enclave of Nagorno-Karabakh, so that our passions and our attachments and our hopes should be directed only in the direction, in the way the compass points to the enclave. But what is really at stake, in my opinion, at this juncture, is not also the man, Nikol Pashinyan, or any other politician of any other color, but a whole country, the future of the Republic. So, please, let us not simply wallow in abject defeatism on the one hand, or market spurious conspiracy theories on the other. Okay, I've said my piece. I'm sure I've rubbed many people the wrong way, whether people in think tanks, in the streets, in government, outside government. This is my opinion. I'm concerned, and I think we need an intelligent conversation about how we move forward and how we respect our institutions and help our institutions to be reformed and at the same time to be strengthened. So is this possible? Or am I basically, to put it politely, whistling in the wind? You know, think deep inside yourself if you are an Armenian. We can sometimes be our own arrogant enemies. We often think we know best, and our monorail obduracy can know no bounds, including on issues as existential as what I just tried to map out for all of us. So the only word I have here, I don't have the facts. I'm not living in Armenia. I'm not involved really in the politics of Armenia. I'm just expressing my own ethnic concerns. And so the only word that comes out from this whole episode, at least for me, is hope. Hus, blended with respect, harkank, that comes to mind today. And so, hus, hope, respect, harkank, lead me to one word, inshallah. Very, very common in Middle Eastern societies. Dio volente, or simply God willing. I hope we show the maturity that this moment demands of us all Armenians, irrespective of our own viewpoints. Have a nice weekend.